G'day everybody, welcome back. Righty ho, we are now into the final presentation or video for the introductory series for Revit RT 2016. So, and this one will be just basically involved in getting your documentation onto a title block, being able to get in and out of there for manipulation, and we'll have a look at printing as well, because printing in Revit can be a little bit tricky, so there's a few tricks to figure out. Okay, but first and foremost, usual story, quick recap of what we did in the last lesson. Okay, so we're zooming into our current project. Okay, and what we did is we looked at a bit of documentation. Okay, so we looked through the example of using room tags, okay, to identify rooms. Okay, so there we go, there's a room being identified, tagged up, gives us an area. Okay, and then showed you the option of using text as well, how to find that. There's one text size, there's another text size. Okay, the addition of leaders, how to add leaders, take leaders off, and touch base on how to apply dimensions to a project. There was the bones of the project. So the next part basically is, now we've got to get this onto paper. Okie dokie. So the process is fairly easy, but there is one little step that we need to set up before we can use this in a practical sense. Okay, so first place to do when we want to go into paper is that we need to go into our project browser. Okay, scroll down a little bit. We'll see the sheets section there, sheets and brackets all. Okay, and there's a little plus there, click on that. Okay, if we double click on that, so this is a preloaded sheet, if we double click on that, we get a title block, okay, or a sheet all ready to go. Okay, so these are pretty cool things. So we've got a sheet number, which is a lot of parametric information here. So the sheet number, that's pretty cool. Project number, if we load that in once, that will update for all sheets in the project. So we'll do that anyway. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that we've got a sheet number, project number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, author, checker, issue date, fairly standard stuff. We've got the owner, we've got a project name, so we could say first lesson, something to that effect. There we go. Okay, this is the name of the sheet, so what information are you applying there? Who is the owner? Okay, consultant information, what a decent little blurb in there. Revision sheet. So there's a lot of information in here. Okay, but the big thing here is that this, by default, Revit gives us an A0. Okay, and for a little residential project that we've been mucking around with, this is a little bit too big, I would say. Okay, it's we're just going to go put the ground floor plan on, but it's only going to sit in one corner of the sheet, so it's a bit pointless. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and locate the A3 sheet. So back into the browser, we right click where it says sheets all, so right click, okay, and we go new sheet. Okay, we will get this pop-up window here, and as you can see here, we've only got the A0 metric available to us. Now, just a little reminder, I'm A0 metric, we're in Australia, so we've got the Australian template, and I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not too sure how that differs from other countries, because I've had no requirement to look elsewhere. But we don't want A0, we want A3. So select title blocks. So what we can do is we can load. So I'm going to click on this load button here, and lo and behold, okay, we're in the wrong place here. Okay, so obviously I've got a setting in Australia where things aren't quite right. Okay, so what should we do here? Very quickly. Now normally you would have Australia or whatever, and you should be able to track it down. So I'm just going to have to very quickly go through my system. Not Dropbox, I'm on the drive. There's my library. Titleblocks, and through here. So this is where you go. So it really depends on how you've got your libraries set up. I have to admit I'm still using, I'm working off my system, and obviously I've got a couple of little glitches here. So okay, but let's just say, okay, there's my company, I'm Supernatural. Okay, so Supernatural A3 template, there's the date I revised it. It's an RFA file, it's a family. Okay, and we just go open. Now what I can do is go OK, because then I've now selected that new sheet, go OK, and ta-da, there it is. Okay, so this is now an A3 sheet. You'll see that it is quite a bit different to the Revit template. Okay, for starters, my information's down the bottom. Okay, I've got a different text style. Locations of everything a little bit different, because this is a personalized setup. Okay, so but we've got A3 sheets, so now what we can do is we can now go in and populate this sheet. So what I'm going to do now is, oh, actually before we even do that, okay, this was an A3 sheet, and look what happened. Project name, it is still the first lesson, so this piece of information carries through between different sheets, and also the project number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it's all pretty handy, it's all nice. So we populate the information, okay, and that means that each time we add a title block, some of the information is already there for us, which is very, very nice. It saves a lot of repetition and potential for error. Okay, but let's get the ground floor plan on. So it's a very simple process. So there's my ground floor plan in my project browser, and to the left here. So all I'm going to do, left mouse button, hold this down a little bit. Once I'm in the project viewing space, I can let go. So now I've let go of the mouse, okay, and it's held on, and then I can just go left click to drop that viewport, because that's basically what we've done. And that's the bones of it. That's basically how you get views onto a sheet. So I can click on this, and I might move this up a little bit. Okay, move it around. Okay, now here's another little trick. If you're in Revit, okay, and you want to move things around a bit, but you want to do little bits in a non-accurate manner, you can use the arrow keys. Okay, and you can nudge things around. It is called the nudge function. Okay, so you can muck around and actually get things to sit where you want them to sit. Okay, it's not going to align or snap to anything, but it does help you move things around quite rapidly. Okay, so that's the view sheet overlaid onto the title block. Okay, very similar process to what you would do with AutoCAD, where you are creating viewports, etc. Okay, so we've got a couple of little things here that we need to fix. Number one is that we've got our ground floor plan, we've got the title all the way down here. So I need to click on that by itself, grab my little move button, and then I can hold my mouse down, click and drag that into place. Okay. Now the next thing I need to do is I can click on that little viewport there, go into my properties, and it says viewport title with line. Okay, if I click that little arrow there, I can see that there's either no title or I can have a title with no line. So I'm going to choose the title with no line for this example. There we go. Zoom in, ground floor, scale, no line, nothing to muck around with. Okay, so that's the bones of it. Okay, but like I said, we've still got a couple of more things to fix. We've got our elevation markers in the wrong place, and we've also got our section marker sticking out of the page a little bit, so it's all a little bit messy. So how do we get in there and to fix that? I could go into my ground floor plan and sort that out, okay, and do it manually through effectively what is model space. Or now that I'm on the sheet, I really do need to stay here and work effectively in paper space. So to get into the model space from here, it's a double left click. So double left click, and there we go. So now I'm back in the model space. I can come in here and I can manipulate my model. I can muck around with things and all that sort of stuff. So I can do some very quick things here. So I can click on my section marker there. Okay, I can just do a quick drag in there. So you grab the little grip dots there, move things around. I can grab that elevation marker, I can use my drag function. So again, just highlight everything. Oop. Make sure you got the little arrow there, and move it all in. Just be very careful though when you move elevation markers and section markers, it does affect the view. So these little things with Revit that you need to be very certain that you're setting up correctly, okay? Because once you've got that view set up, you really don't want to be mucking around with it, because it's going to upset what you physically see for that view. Okay, so but we've got some leeway with this project. Okay. Now the next thing we can do is here is down the bottom here, bottom left hand corner, this one here where it says show the crop region. Go click on that. That just shows where the viewport is basically. Okay. Now by default Revit's set to not print that, so you can have that pretty much wherever you like. But at this stage I'll keep it exactly where it is. It's not going to print. So there we go. Sheets on there. We've allocated, we've shuffled everything else. Everything's in the right space. We are ready now to print. Okay. So print dialog. What have we got up here? Well, I haven't even got anything in my shortkeys. So I could go down to my big R. I can go print. I can go there, or I could just use Control P. Not a problem. Okay. Right, so I'm not going to print on the paper on this, obviously. So we're going to use we're going to print to a PDF. Create a PDF file. So the first thing we need to do on our print dialog is to tell it what printer to go for. So I use Bullzip PDF. It's a nice printer because it has A0. What I can do, there's a range of options here. The print range. So what do you want to print? So I can print the current window. I can print the current visible portion. Okay, so that's good if you just want a bit of a screenshot of what you want to do. Or I can go selected views and sheets, and this is the far better way of doing things. So I can go in there. So I'm going to select the views or sheets. So once I've done that, I have to tell Revit which ones I want. So I'm going to go select. Okay. And here is a list of everything, every view within the project at the moment. So it's a fairly short list at the moment. But I can filter that by turning the views off so that we're only dealing with the sheets. Okay, and I'm just going to select, I'm going to check none initially. I always like to do that. That way I can go left click, that's the only sheet I want to print. So I'm just going to go OK, I've selected that sheet. No, I don't want to save these settings. Okay, the next thing is to check the setup here. So we'll just go into here. Okay, so the setup tells us what size paper to use, centering and all that sort of stuff. So first things first, paper size. So we click on that little drop down arrow there and we want to pick the A3 paper. Okay, now here's a couple of little trick with Revit. Okay, and I think this should be done I personally think that they should have these two windows around the other way. Okay, because at the moment the paper placement is in center, which is where I want it. I want it centered. But on my zoom function below, it says fit to page, which is just a big no-no because it's going to print out wrong. Okay, it may not print to exact scale. So what I want to do here is I want to zoom. But you watch what happens when I press the zoom button. You watch what happens up here in the paper placement. So if I go zoom, there it is there. All of a sudden it tells me to offset. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a second. So zoom 100% of size. That basically means we're printing to the scale as dictated by the model space on paper. So I want to print this A3 1 to 100, 100%. The next thing I want to do is I want to recenter the paper there. A little tricky thing. I don't know why they do that, but Revit or Autodesk would be nice if you flip those two around so that the sequence is a bit more logical. Okay, so now we can press OK. We've selected our sheets. We've got the setup right. If you're printing multiple sheets, you would click this button here. Okay, and that will combine them all into a single file. So you don't have to go through a publishing process or anything like that. And I do this by default. and that's it. So now we can go OK. There we go. We can create the image. So if I chuck this on, I go to my desktop, yada yada yada, you know, project 1 2 3 4, save. Okay, there we go. Make sure the file location's correct. Go save and print. There we go. So I'm in Acrobat Reader DC, but as you can see, we've got this nice thing, and I'm getting 1,000,001 messages from DC. Okay, so ooh, I didn't want that, did I? So I'll shut all this down very quickly because it's irritating. But that is the bones of it. Okay, so we've started a project, we've drawn up some walls, some basic elements of it, we've done a bit of documentation, we've put it onto paper, and we've printed it. And that concludes this series of tutorials. For the next tutorials, I'm going to go away for a day or so. I'm going to dream up a nice little project, probably a double story on a little bit of a gradient of land, so that we can see, we can start using the site tools as well. Okay, so I will bid you goodbye and enjoy the series of videos, and please feel free to comment, contact me, subscribe. It all helps to for me to help get the message out there, and yeah, if there's anything that you want or any information that you would like, let me know. I'll wherever possible and whenever possible, I will run specific tutorials and videos, yeah, for anybody that wants anything in particular. Right, see you later.